130 medications are in shortage in the United States, including key cancer treatments, according to the Food and Drug Administration. Joining us now to discuss it is former FDA Commissioner Dr. Scott Gottlieb, who is also a board member at Pfizer. Doctor, it's good to have you back. I wanted to have you explain this because the American Cancer Society warned this week it's a serious and life-threatening issue for cancer patients. How bad is this shortage and what's causing it?
Look, it's bad. This is a long-standing problem. There's about 300 drugs in shortage right now, active shortages, and so that's a high level. It's the highest it's been since 2014, but this has been a long-standing challenge. I dealt with it when I was at FDA going back to around 2003. That's how old this problem is. And the issue is that this mostly affects sterile injectable drugs. That doesn't mean that small molecule pill form drugs aren't in shortage, but the majority of these shortages are around the sterile injectable drugs. The reimbursement for these drugs under government programs has been driven down very low, something above the marginal cost of manufacturing the drugs. And that's fine when it comes to a pill form drug where there's not a lot that can go wrong. But when it comes to an injectable drug, you need to leave a margin in so people can reinvest in manufacturing facilities, make sure they're high quality. They haven't done that, and things go wrong, and it results in shortages.
Well, I know the White House is looking at this issue. Something like 80% of manufacturing facilities are located outside the U.S. How do you ramp up domestic production?
Yeah, look, we've paid a high price for the low costs we enjoy. If you want to get manufacturing back into the U.S., you want companies to have a healthy margin that they can reinvest in their manufacturing facilities to make sure that they're modern. You need to pay them to do that. And as long as we drive down the reimbursement for these generic drugs, they're not going to have the money to reinvest in doing that. The White House is talking about more regulation. The generic manufacturers are calling for direct subsidies. I think we really need to create a market for high-quality manufacturing so you can allow generic manufacturers to make certain claims about the reliability and the quality of their manufacturing, and then for generic manufacturers that can make those claims through maybe some third-party certification, you pay them for that. You pay them for the fact that they have reliable manufacturing that might be domestic, that might be more modern, so it's going to be more reliable and less prone to shortages.
Well, the federal government is capping the cost of certain drugs because of high costs to consumers. Is that going to add to this issue?
Well, the features under the Inflation Reduction Act will exacerbate this problem because it will prevent these generic manufacturers from being able to take price increases. For example, if they enter a market for the first time or they spend a lot of money upgrading a facility to be compliant with state-of-the-art regulations, they're not going to be able to take a price increase to recoup some of those costs. So it's going to come out of their own pocket. 50% of generic drugs right now in a generic portfolio lose money. So a generic manufacturer loses money on half of their drugs that they market. That's not a sustainable business model. I think the administration under the IRA should carve out these old sterile injectable drugs entirely. They didn't do that in legislation, so it is going to exacerbate these problems.
Can they do that? Can the FDA do that? Who can do that?
Well, the FDA, it's going to take Congress. They did create provisions in the IRA to try to carve out some of these drugs, but the way they structured it, a lot of these sterile injectable drugs are still going to get caught in these price caps. And so it would take an act of Congress right now to modify the IRA to do that. I think people are looking at it. I think they recognize that there are structural features in this market that make this a recurring problem. This isn't a new problem. It's gotten worse over time. It's going to take Congress stepping in to do something to change the way these drugs are paid for.